U.S. Navy history arriving. Welcome to the U.S. Navy History Podcast. I am Dale, and over there is Steven. Looks like the men in black gave him back to us.
Yeah, Cuba was great. Nothing but beaches.
Did you get to do the pyramid?
Yes, it wasn't fun.
No, it's not supposed to be. So today we are going to go over the West Indies anti-piracy operations in the United States. So how does that sound to you, going after some piracy?
Yar har fiddly dee. Do what you want, 'cause a pirate be free.
So shall we get underway?
Let's get underway.
This operations were concentrated around the Antilles and the surrounding waters there between the United States Navy and pirates, Caribbean pirates. This was between 1817 and 1825, and the American West Indies Squadron was the one that was responsible for this theater. And they chased these guys around Cuba, Puerto Rico, in areas like that.
Okay. So was this, you said it was a single squadron from the U.S. Was this a single group of captains operating together, or was this all, unique captains and crews?
The main captains was James Biddle and David Porter on the U.S. side, and there were four main pirate captains: Jean Lafayette, Jean Lafargus, Louis Aury, and Roberto Confresi. So at this time, the United States Navy was operating with the Revenue Service. Then they were operating against piracy and also the slave trade in the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, yes, because importing slaves was outlawed in the early 20s, right? For the 1820s?
Something like that.
I do find it a little funny that the Navy was working so closely with the taxman.
Well, military and money go hand in hand, especially when you're collecting it for your government.
Yes, we see that you're several years behind. Do you have that? No. Oh, well, what a coincidence. I do happen to have a 36-pound cannon, though.
But the Revenue Service in this case was the United States Revenue Cutter Service. It is a armed maritime law enforcement service. But you're correct, it is under the authority of the U.S. Department of Treasury. So, I guess maritime tax cops?
So, did the Coast Guard exist at this time, or was this the precursor to it?
It's funny that you asked that, because in 1915, the U.S. tax cops become the U.S. Coast Guard.
Oh, cool.
So, the U.S. Navy and Revenue Service are operating in this area. So, September 1821, there was a pirate attack. 3 merchant ships were captured. So Congress authorized Commodore James Biddle to put the squadron out there in the Caribbean. So this force had 2 frigates, the USS Macedonian and the USS Congress, 2 corvettes, the USS Scion and USS John Adams, 2 sloops of war, the USS Hornet, USS Peacock. You remember the Peacock?
I do remember the Peacock. Glory be to that beautiful ship.
Every time I say the Peacock, you just get this huge smile on your face. There were also 2 brigs, the USS Spark and the USS Enterprise. A few schooners, the USS Grampus, the USS Alligator, the USS Shark, the USS Porpoise, and 2 gunboats, number 158 and 168.
So, it sounds like our dear old pirates are going to be outgunned and outmanned quite heavily. Why did this take 5 years?
Well, it's a big ocean.
Stand and fight, you yellow-bellied cowards.
So, between all of these boats, there's about 1,500 naval personnel. It's a lot of guys. So before this force was formed, They had originally only had single ship operations in the area. So this was hoped to enhance that and to make quick work of it. So 5 years, I guess you could say, would be quick work, but we'll find out. Well, in addition, over the course of the next few decades, the American West Indies Squadron also engaged the Spanish pirates, Venezuelan pirates, Cuban pirates, and Puerto Rican pirates.
Okay, so we were taking our first steps into becoming, Team America, international law keepers.
And attempting to be pirate free. But, even today, they're still pirates. So we're going to cover 1817 to 1821. So the first vessels to go out between 1817 and 1821 were the USS Enterprise, the USS Nonsuch, and the USS Lynx, and also gunboat 158 and 160. All of these ships were operating independently, so they were not doing fleet operations, which means there was also no Commodore. So a lot of these pirates in this period were Latin American pirates, and they also doubled as privateers because of a revolution against Spain. So both the rebel governments and the Spanish government issued letters of marque, which allowed these pirates to serve as privateers, which made their piracy legal.
Provided their targets were of the opposing nation.
Exactly. So a lot of times these guys would go after American merchantmen, attacking their crews. This is what led them to being branded as pirates.
Because your own government isn't going to be too picky if you bring pilfered supplies and goods. Oh yeah, no, that was totally from an enemy merchant ship. It has a United States stamp on it. That's where they were going. Good enough for me.
Well, I know in the U.S., when we were doing privateering, there would be a court after the prize was brought back, and they would determine then if it was a legal prize or not. If it's legal, then it's sold and the profit is given to the crew and the owner of the ship. And if it's not, more than likely everybody's released and given their boat back, minus, how many ever was killed. So in 1819, President James Monroe, he sent Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry to Venezuela with the USS Constellation, the corvette USS John Adams, and USS Nonsuch. His orders were to demand restitution for these merchantmen that were captured by the Venezuelan privateers, and to also get it in writing that they would stop it.
Okay, that's sensible.
So initially, he was successful, and there was a treaty that was signed on August 11th. Now, unfortunately for Harry, he died of yellow fever on the voyage back. So this caused the agreement to fail.
Wait a second, so an unfortunate turn of events, but there wasn't a junior officer that could be, yes, I have the written agreement, I witnessed him signing it, we're still good.
Maybe at this point in time you had to deliver it yourself?
Well, if any of our listeners are experts in 19th century international law and treaties, please let us know.
Yeah, because we're only experts in 15th century.
Yeah. And I didn't pass the 12th century bar. Something about not knowing what Magna Carta was.
Well, all your information was 300 years in the future. So they didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah, I said crazy words like upstairs and downstairs.
Big difference between 12th and 15th century. But, we'll get into that for another time. So, in December, the USS John Adams forced the pirate Louis Ari to evacuate a base of his that was on Amelia Island in Florida. which is why later the John Adams was established as the flagship of Commodore Biddle's squadron. So we're going to fast forward to the 1820s, where the hostilities with the pirates and privateers were on an uptick. So the United States warships started engaging in several naval battles, and a total of 27 American merchantmen were captured. Between 1818 and 1821, the Enterprise captured 13 pirates and slave ships while in the New Orleans Squadron, and also in the West Indies.
Wow, that's not a bad record at all.
One of the reasons why the Enterprise is the Enterprise, no matter what decade.
Captain, there seems to be a pirate vessel. Ah, well, then we should engage them. Fire. Look, I've seen 3 episodes of TOS, so, all I know is Kirk Fu, and, Kirk, well, hello there.
You need to expand your horizons, my friend. There have been much more than just TOS.
Oh, I've seen TNG, most of it, and most of Voyager.
And those captains are much better with the English language.
If I'm being honest, the only thing I remember from Voyager is, fish babies.
Fish babies. I don't remember that from Voyager.
Janeway gets hyper, evolution somehow. And, no, the helmsman does, because he hits warp 10. And then he brings Janeway along for a warp 10 trip, and then they make amphibian babies or something.
I don't remember that one.
Voyager gets weird sometimes.
Oh, yeah, that's definite. Okay, so in 1819, the USS Lynx was captained by Lieutenant J.R. Madison, and he captures 2 pirate schooners and 2 boats of unidentifiability in the Gulf of Mexico on November 9th. She also captured another pirate in Galveston Bay. So these pirates were right there up against the U.S. Third Coast.
I mean, yeah. Wait. Texas isn't part of the U.S. yet, correct?
So Texas became part of the U.S. in 1846. So this is
okay.
still 20-ish, 20, 30 years before Texas becomes a U.S. state.
But this is after they secede from Mexico.
Texas seceded from Mexico in 1836.
Oh, so it's still part of Mexico.
Yes.
Which would make a lot of sense then for why some of the pirates would be, pulling into port there.
Didn't say anything about pulling a port. That's just where they were captured.
Oh.
These pirates are Caribbean pirates. And the Caribbean is over there just off of Florida, south of Florida. So unfortunately, the Lynx just disappears in January of 1820 when she was going to Jamaica. More than likely because a storm did her in. But none of her crew was ever seen again. In October of 1821, the Enterprise was underway off the Cape of Antonio, which is in Cuba, when she came to the assistance of 3 merchantmen who had been attacked and captured by 4 pirate craft. So they launched longboats and attacked these craft. At the end of this, 40 pirates were killed or captured, and 2 of their vessels were captured. Now, the next month, the Enterprise attacks a pirate base near Cape Antonio and just cleared the entire area of criminals. They went in, said, no more criminals, and they did that. In September, 3 American merchant ships were destroyed off of Matanza, Cuba. The crew of one of these ships was tortured, and the vessel was set aflame. Survivors were able to escape in a longboat to shore. 3 men were killed on a second American ship, and everyone on the third vessel was killed, and that vessel was also burned.
Oh, these are crap pirates. killing your potential captives to ransom off and destroying potentially sellable goods?
This single incident is one of the main reasons why the U.S. stayed in the area to keep going with the anti-piracy operations.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So the Hornet, she captures a schooner, this one's identified as a privateer, which was named the Moscow, October 29th in 1821. And on December 21st, she captures a pirate ship, apparently, that decided not to fight. Apparently, the crew just jumped into longboats and rowed to shore.
Sensible, I suppose, if you're outnumbered and outgunned.
Yeah. Abandoned ship. Live for another day.
Live to pillage.
Also in December, Lieutenant James Ramage of the USS Porpoise was off of Cape Antonio, and he discovered 5 enemy vessels. So he put down longboats as well. This seems to be the longboat war. But he puts down 5 boats and loads 40 of his sailors into it. So he actually loads himself into these boats as well and leads the advance. Some of these pirates, they saw them coming, were like, peace, we're out. And they rowed ashore. But a number of them also decided to fight. And all these longboats, they're destroyed and burned.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They were also able to free a merchant brig that they had captured, though, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is good.
So the USS Spark was commanded by Lieutenant John Elton. He left Boston and joined a number of vessels assigned to the counter-piracy brigade, I guess you could call it. And in the beginning of 1822, he captures a Dutch pirate ship.
Well, that doesn't sound Latin American at all.
No, but because of how much trade was coming out of this area, easy pickings.
I see. So, not the declared target, but a valid one nonetheless.
Yeah. So she takes 7 prisoners to Charleston for trial, and then returns to the Caribbean for 3 years.
Wow.
So when the U.S. Navy began going against the pirates, the Royal Navy was actually very quick to bring in a squadron of their own to the West Indies.
Oh, so this was our first time working together after that little tuffle?
Between our last war?
Yeah, but between our last shipping disagreement, so to speak.
Yeah, by this time, this is 20 years later? No, 10 years later.
Yeah, it's only been a decade.
Yeah. So this is like 10 years later. We were friends now because that was our last big kerfuffle. So this is our first time joint navies are working together. So this can only be good, right?
Yeah, I'm sure we won't have officers that may have squared up against one another, accidentally bump into each other, and wait a second, John? Oh, Masterman. Hello, sir. I thought I blew your arm off. No, please don't.
So there were 3 significant engagements that the British participated in between 1822 and 1823. So in March, boat crews from the USS Enterprise captured 2 launches and 4 boats in a creek near Cape Antonio. And on March 6th, they seized 8 more craft of 150 pirates. A British merchantman under Captain William Smith was taken over by Spanish pirates in July. And the pirates made the British commander, walk the plank.
I thought that was just an urban myth. I thought people didn't actually do that. That's an incredibly ineffective way to execute someone.
I thought so too, because you're right, it is an ineffective way to execute someone because he started to swim away.
Right. It's
So
like
they end up,
you can't have them actually walk to the plank if you're weighing them down with something that'll force them to sink. But if you have them walk and they know how to swim, oh, great, we lost our prisoner.
well, no, they shot him in the back.
Oh, wow. Way to be rude.
Yeah. Walk the plank. Oh, he's swimming. Shoot him in the back. So, on a sad note, his 14-year-old son was on the boat. And the pirate captain, well, of course, the boy was crying because his dad was just forced to jump off the boat and then shot in the back. So he was crying and inconsolable. So this bastard crushed the kid's head.
Okay, I'm wishing for nothing but bad things to happen to this guy.
Yeah. So the USS Grampus encounters a brig flying Spanish colors in August. The commander was Lieutenant Gregory. He thought that the ship might be a pirate. So he draws near to attempt to board her to figure out what was going on with this boat. So as the Grampus draws near, so this boat called the Polyarma opens fire. So a brief 3.5-minute battle is fought.
Wow, that is brief by naval terms.
Yeah. So the pirate vessel is wrecked and they board it, and these pirates were found to be from Puerto Rico with a letter of marque that was intended to get pirates out of situations that they found themselves in.
Isn't that literally what a letter of marque is for sometimes?
Not when it's fake.
Oh no! No, no!
Yes, this letter of marque was fake.
Wait a second. How do they know it was fake? Or does it not say?
It does not say.
Okay. But, I know a few episodes back we had an idiot who forgot to grab his letter of marque because, I'll pick it up next time I'm in port. This is the one worst thing you could do.
More than likely they knew it was fake because they see so many of these things, because that's what they're out here doing, hunting pirates. So they're stopping and checking a lot of vessels.
Yeah.
So they've probably seen a lot of letter of marques. So being able to identify what is fake and what is not shouldn't be that hard for them to do.
So it was probably a little better than, yes, they can steal stuff off high seas if from, insert country name here, signed the king. No name, just the king.
Right, and it was all in crayon.
Dang, guys, get the pen. I know it's a little more expensive, but it's worth it. It adds that little bit of credibility.
And I'm sure the seal was probably just made out of whatever they had at hand.
Is this confetti? No, it's the royal seal of the Republic of Piracy.
Well, why is it just a thumbs up? So they take these pirates and they hand them over to the Spanish in Cuba, because at the time, this is what you're supposed to do with captured pirates. You turn them over to Spain because the U.S. doesn't have the authority to imprison them.
Even if they were robbing our merchant vessels?
Even though they were robbing our merchant vessels.
Okay, that seems backwards.
We could sink them. We could kill them. But we cannot bring charges on them.
Because it's international water, so even though it's affecting our shipping, our citizens, it is technically an international crime, so they have to be convicted and tried in their home country, or whatever country they're really at grievance with.
Well, I'm not a maritime lawyer, especially a 19th century maritime lawyer, so I cannot give you that information.
Listeners, once again, this question goes out to you. We need you legal experts. We know one of you has to be.
So, the U.S. Navy, they cannot pursue pirates on Spanish soil. So in April of 1822, Commodore David Porter, commanding the USS Macedonian, one of his first missions was to consult with the governor, Captain General Don Nicholas Mahé of Cuba, and the governor of Puerto Rico. Both governors, they decide to deny his request to allow American shore parties to come ashore to chase these pirates.
Because they were, as far as Spain was concerned, privateers working for the Spanish government, and therefore legally protected and outside of our jurisdiction.
They just didn't want foreign militaries on their soil.
But foreign pirates are cool?
Yeah, sure, I guess. I don't.
All right, well, that makes zero sense to me, but all right, I'm not a governor in Spain.
So the U.S. did go after them a little bit, only if they went ashore in very remote areas. So they did this sneaky backdoor thing.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. Makes sense.
So Commodore Porter attacks and destroys a pirate force at Funda Bay in Cuba between September 28th and 30th of the 1822. And also on the 28th, the Peacock, your favorite boat,
Yep.
captures a boat filled with pirates 60 miles from Havana, and then later that afternoon encounters the merchant vessel Speedwell, which was attacked 2 hours before by pirates. So because of this attack, Captain Stephen Casson of the USS Peacock launches a boat expedition and captures 4 schooners. But again, most of the pirates jumped ship and rose to shore.
Makes sense. I mean, when your primary tools to use in a fight are surprise and, preying on those who can't fight back, someone shows up that actually can put the hurt on you in return. Yeah, let's hop overboard and grab and just make a run for it.
Yeah. So on September 30th, the 26-gun HMS Tyne was escorting a 1-gun merchant sloop, the Eliza, when they were attacked by a 5-gun pirate ship named Firm Onion.
Oh, truly a name to inspire fear across the 7 seas.
I wish it was Firm Onion because I mispronounced it. Firm Union.
Well, that just sounds dirty.
During this battle, the British board and capture this pirate ship. 10 of them were killed, and the rest just abandoned ship. This is becoming a theme. Instead of being captured, they just want to jump and run. Because they know if they stand trial, they're going to be hanged anyway.
Yeah. Courts are not usually kind to those that engage in piracy, doubly so in this era.
Yeah. So moving to November, the USRC Louisiana. USRC is the tax cops. They were with the USS Peacock and the Royal Navy schooner HMS Speedwell. They capture 5 pirates' vessels off of Havana. And a few days later, Lieutenant William Howard Allen, captain of the USS Alligator, was unfortunately killed in battle when he was leading an attack against 3 pirate schooners, which were holding 5 merchantmen hostage. But during this battle, 2 of the schooners were captured and at least 14 pirates were killed. So because of the lieutenant's death, Secretary of the Navy Smith Thompson, this guy's got 2 last names, authorized Commodore Porter to procure new vessels for his squadrons. So he gets 8 new shallow draft schooners, 5 large barges, and a steam-powered riverboat, and also a schooner that was used as a storehouse.
While I know this can't possibly be the case, I really, really want Samuel Clemens to be on that steamboat.
So the schooners were armed with 3 guns each. They were the USS Beagle, the USS Ferret, the USS Fox, the USS Greyhound, USS Jackal, USS Terrier, USS Weasel, and the USS Wildcat.
Okay, so the flotilla was really the USS Pet Shop.
They had, yeah, they were enjoying their animal names with that one. Now, the store ship, the USS Decoy.
Uh, I mean, oh, and the fact that this is a flotilla after pirates, that's just perfect.
Now, the steamer was the USS Seagull.
Guys, you're making this too easy.
So, this squadron leaves the U.S. for Cuba February 15th, and Commodore Biddle receives new orders of conduct. Or, in terms of modern,
Standing orders?
he received new orders of engagement.
Okay.
He is now allowed to land shore parties in populated areas as long as he lets the locals know first.
Oh, so even if the governors are like, well, no, you can't do that. Well, my government says I can. What are you gonna do?
That is exactly what's happened. Now, he was also ordered to cooperate with any sovereign naval forces operating against pirates. So he was told, you can team up with any other nation out there that are also fighting pirates.
Oh, this is great. I just got a new fantasy naval draft card. I am going to take a Norwegian schooner and a British frigate, and of course, the USS Constitution and the Peacock as my flagship.
Yeah. So the HMS Gracian of 6 guns captures a 8-gun schooner named La Cata on March 1st, just south of Cuba. 30 of these pirates were killed in action, and 3 were taken prisoner out of 100 men. The USS Fox was sent to San Juan, Puerto Rico in March because they wanted a list of all legally commissioned privateers and details of what their instructions were. So they wanted copies of their letter of marques.
This seems like a reasonable request, and honestly, as long as a nation isn't at war with another nation, I feel like that should have been common practice. Here's a list of all the ships that we currently are giving letters of marque to. This is the letter of marque saying that they can prey on ships of this nation, so if you see them and they're playing by the rules, let them be.
Exactly. So
They
yeah,
give
this
you
was...
they give you crap. Let us know. We'll give them twice as much.
Oh no, if they give them crap, they'll just sink them.
Oh, that works.
So when the Fox enters San Juan Harbor on March 3rd, the artillery battery opens fire on them.
So I have to ask, what did the Fox say in return?
Well, a number of these hit the Fox and mortally wounded her commander, Lieutenant William H. Koch.
Well, that is not where I expected that to go.
Yeah. But Commodore Porter later gets a apology and he accepts it from the Puerto Rico's governor.
Sorry we shot your ship and wounded its commanding officer, most likely mortally. We thought you were a pirate?
Flying the American flag? Yeah, that screams piracy, doesn't it?
Hey, if there's one thing I've learned helping you out with this, Captain, flags are nothing but fields of lies on canvas.
Seems that way during this part of the naval history. So the British warships Tyne and Therakin, they each had 18 guns. They defeated the notorious pirate Captain I'm going to butcher this name, Cayetano Argonzi's 13-gun ship, Zaragoza, on March 31st. This was a running battle, which means the pirates were running, the British were chasing. They chased him right into Mata Harbor, where the British lowered boats and captured the vessels. 10 of these pirates were killed and 28 were captured. This is the biggest capture we've seen so far.
Yeah. Usually
And
they
the
just
Royal-
cut and run.
Yeah. And the Royal Navy sustains just slight casualties. I don't know what slight casualties is. Maybe it's a paper cut. Maybe it's a couple guys.
Let's be honest. It was really a box of Earl Grey that was lost overboard in the confusion.
That would be heavy casualties for the British.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So, two barges, the USS Gallon Piper and the USS Mosquito, they liberate an American merchant vessel on April 8th. They killed two of the pirates and arrested one of the others. But of course, as we've already established, most got away. So on April 16th, those two barges and your favorite boat, the USS Peacock, they spot a felucca off of Colorados.
Yeah, which, despite its name, is not a weird whale. It's just a style of ship that's popular in the Mediterranean at this time. Just a triangularly sailed ship, about 10 meters long on the top side, crew of 10 or less. And they can't be becalmed because they get oars.
So small.
Yeah.
So the Peacock captures the felucca. But of course, the crew goes to shore and also scuttles 3 of their own schooners. So later, Grampus rescues a crew off of the American schooner Shiobeth after it was taken by pirates in June of 1823. The pirates boarded the merchantmen silently and killing the guards. And then they corner the rest of the crew inside the ship. They then rob the ship and set her on fire. Grampus arrived when it was still burning and was able to take off the remaining crew.
Oh, good. Good.
A couple days after this, pirates attacked another merchantman before being found by the Spanish army, and they captured these pirates. The USS Ferret's crew, they had a number of skirmishes with the pirates in June. During one of these incidents, the Ferret found a few of the pirate craft in shallow water off of Manitza. So she attacks using her broadside guns and sinks 2 of these boats as they were fleeing along the coast. Due to the low depth of the water in which they were at, they had to use a small boat to attack the remaining shallow craft. But when the longboat comes within range, the pirates open fire on them and shoot a hole through it. So they end up turning around and getting back to the ferret just before the longboat sinks.
Oh, well, nothing like a sinking rowboat to motivate you to put your back into those strokes.
Right. And since this is their only longboat, they are just forced to leave and continue on their patrol in deeper water. So later this same day, the Ferret, she commandeers a small vessel with a shallow draft and decide to go back to where their boat was sunk because they wanted revenge on these pirates.
We will avenge the longboat.
But unfortunately, bad weather stopped them from doing this. So the boat that they commandeered, they ended up giving that back because the weather kept them from pursuing these pirates. But the next morning, the Americans encounter a British merchantman who were very kind and gave them a small boat. So the Ferret again returns to the bay, but the only thing they found was the 2 boats that they had sunk earlier. Now, on July 5th, the USS Seagull, this is our steamship,
Yep.
under the command of Lieutenant William H. Watson. He was accompanied by the barges Gallon Piper and Mosquito, and they fought off pirates near Manassas, close to where Lieutenant Allen was killed about a year earlier. The American vessels encountered a very heavily armed schooner with a crew of around 75. So the Navy ships attacked with their cannons, and the schooner was hit a number of times, and that just scared the bejesus out of them. So they turned to run. So again, when faced with actual people that fight back, they don't want to have anything to do with it. So they're just big bullies.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Though in their defense this time, it was crazy, scary technology. Wheels that turned without the power of a man behind it.
sure, we'll go with that. So they continue firing on these pirates, and after a few more hits, the pirates really started to panic, and they start abandoning ship.
Par for the course so far.
So the barges come in close to the schooner, and the sailors and Marines on board start firing into these men that were swimming away, shouting "Allen, Allen" at them, because this is where Allen was killed. 15 of these pirates make it shore, but then were attacked by a landing party of Americans that were waiting for them. So 11 of these were killed, and the last 4 were captured. But they were captured by the Cuban villagers. So, unlike most of these battles, there were about 75 pirates when this battle started. At the end, only 5 were alive.
Whoa!
So moving on to July 21st, the commanders of Beagle and Greyhound were investigating around the Cape Cruz, Cuba area in a small boat when it was fired upon from shore. So
Again with this, guys?
yeah. So they withdrew to their ship, and the next morning, they land sailors and Marines, and they find and destroy a makeshift fort. These were actually pirates.
Oh, okay. Well, this is making more sense now.
So the pirates do evade the shore party, but their quote unquote base was dismantled, and a number of their artillery pieces were removed. They were like, "These are ours now. Your blanket fort has nothing on us."
No! And no, but Fort Anti-Navy was supposed to be impregnable. It specifically said no U.S. Navy personnel allowed. Didn't you read the sign?
They don't speak pirate.
That's why U.S. Navy sailors should take a level in Rogue so they can speak pirate.
And do you know how many of these guys actually knew how to read and write at this time? Not a lot.
Well, like those crewmates, I can't count past the number of fingers I have, so probably more than 7?
We're going to have to work on that, aren't we?
Yeah, well, I mean, you didn't say this position required mathematics.
But you're so good with converting $1,800 to $2020.
See, that's money. That's important.
So the USS Seagull with Ralph Voorhees in command. So this was before he decided to put on the hockey mask and murder campers. He recaptures the merchant schooner Pacification from pirates on March 30th. So the last area we're going to go and cover is 1824 to 1825. So West Indies, tropical area, right?
Yeah.
Tropical diseases.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Because of the area they were operating in, tropical disease was common on these ships, which had to go home eventually.
Oh, no.
So by the beginning of 1824, most of the West Indies squadron had to be recalled because of illness.
Wouldn't they practice quarantine procedures, like only allowing medical personnel onto the ships to treat sailors that were fighting an infection of whatever Well, this is before germ theory, so fighting whatever bad spirits.
Well, actually, they did know about diseases and they did practice quarantine, but it depends on which port you're going to.
Oh no.
But Commodore Porter, he came back in February in the USS Firefly, and he wanted to operate for a little while longer before going north back home in July. But because of the number of vessels that are home being quarantined or, you know, leaving puke trails on the way home, piracy in the Puerto Rican waters, they get an uptick until about July of 1825. So between July and August, 10 attacks on American vessels were reported because only a few warships remained in the area, mainly Porter with his USS Firefly. Thankfully, in February, the Mexican Navy came out there and joined him. And this was after Spanish authorities in Puerto Rico detained your USS Peacock and the commander, Lieutenant Platt, in October of the previous year. So Commodore Porter was relieved of duty in February of 1825. And so he decided to join the Mexican Navy. And this was after the Spanish authorities in Puerto Rico detained USS Peacock's commander, Lieutenant Platt, in October of 1824. So while Lieutenant Platt is being detained, the pirates raid St. Thomas in the Danish Virgin Islands and return to Fiordo with $5,000 worth of stolen merchandise from an American-owned business.
Not an American-owned merchant ship?
So the store owners that got robbed asked Lieutenant Platt to help him recover their goods, right? So Platt lands Platt lands his men in Fiordo on October 27th. So in order to attempt to not alert the pirates, the shore party wore civilian clothes. So because of this, they were arrested by the Spanish army and charged with piracy.
Yeah.
So Platt explains to these authorities why he was out of uniform. And so the Spanish later do allow for one of his men to retrieve his uniform and his commission. So once they see this, they were all released. So when Commodore Porter hears of this, he goes over there with the USS John Adams, the Beagle, and the Grampus. And he lands a shore party and demands an apology from the Spanish.
Not needed. They acted appropriately.
So the U.S. government was not happy about this. And this is... and that he's court-martialed and dismissed from service, which is why he goes over to the Mexican Navy.
Porter demanded an apology from the Mexican government.
Spanish.
U.S. Navy response?
Spanish government.
Oh, Spanish government. Okay. Yeah, this is before Mexico gains its independence. Okay. Is it?
No.
No?
That's why there's a Spanish
Scrub
Navy
all that.
and a Mexican Navy.
I'm getting my timeline mixed up. Okay, this is making more and more and more sense. Yeah, okay, yeah, Mexican government acted completely understandably.
Spanish.
And then, dang it! So, all the governments involved acted completely understandably. You know, totally understandable why they would assume, hey, pirates, because civilian clothes. Releasing everyone upon finding out, oh, no, you're actually commissioned naval sailors and officers. Maybe let us know next time you want to do something like that. Because that isn't a bad idea. But, you know, poor execution, getting rounded up by the local authorities. And, yeah, why would you want an apology for them acting sensibly? Yeah, the op was kind of, you know, messed up, but you can't blame them for doing that.
Well, this guy's just a bit of a jerk.
Clearly.
Power went to his head. Now, the Spanish did make the apology because there were warships in their harbor. But, I mean, again, it was not needed. They didn't do anything wrong. This is why Porter loses his job and goes to the Mexican Navy. So, the West Indies Pirates operation was declared a victory in 1825, even though occasional piracy outbreaks did continue. In March of 25, the Gallinipper was accompanied by the frigate HMS Dartmouth and the schooners HMS Lion and HMS Union, where they did an operation against Cuban pirates. Lieutenant Isaac McKeever commanded an attack against a hostile schooner at the mouth of Sagua La Grande, and American and British forces took the ship, killing 18 of the pirates and capturing 19, where the combined fleet only lost one man to being wounded.
Well, I mean, that is regrettable, even a single death, but that not bad.
Now, the next day, they capture another schooner, but the pirates abandoned ship. So the famed pirate Roberto Confresi was defeated on March 2nd by the USS Grampus and two Spanish sloops off of Boca del Infierno. He was considered the last Caribbean pirate to be successful, and he was executed on March 29th of 1825, and upon his execution, that is when piracy was declined for good.
That's when the mission accomplished banner was unfurled.
The operations in the West Indies were eventually turned over to the Home Squadron and the Brazil Squadron in 1842. And the Home Squadron is part of the U.S. Navy. That is the West Indies anti-piracy operations. How you feeling?
Well, I'm understanding now why it took so long. It wasn't so much an organized war as, like you said early on, just patrolling and taking what you can find, and that takes time.
Yeah. I mean, big ocean, no real way to track anybody. So it's just sailing around and hoping to run into somebody.
Right. And if you don't have the, ship power like the British do to give a naval escort to almost every single merchant fleet, that's the best you can do.
And even then, most of these pirates, they were like, once they saw a naval vessel, they were like, nope. They'd rather lose their ship than fight, which is crazy.
I mean, not if you know how to swim.
A lot of guys in this day and age didn't know how to swim.
No, yeah, we went over that. This is definitely putting into practice the thing you told me about the U.S. Navy actually wanted sailors not to know how to swim because they'll fight harder if the water means death.
Yep. It wasn't until 1940s when that changed.
Yeah, pirates are clearly demonstrating. We know how to swim. The ship is optional.
Yeah, well, when you steal the ship in the first place, yeah, it is. All right, well, I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you for joining us. You can email us at usnavyhistorypodcast@gmail.com. You can also tweet at us at usnhistorypod. XO, anything you want to say before we pull into port?
We'd love to hear a review from you guys. The more stars, the better, but we'll take what you have to say, even if it's brutally honest. We may even read it on the air if you guys would like. And we want to wish you fair winds and following seas.
You see, lashes do work.
Well, yes, I mean, can't you tell? I just did mine again. Aren't they pretty, Captain?
U.S. Naval History Podcast, departing